time to go live. Great. Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to this live webinar for why CRMs fail from a customer perspective. So the title was chosen because of two reasons. There's the customer being you, of course, the pharma company, but then also our HCPs. In order to really deep dive into these topics, we have two experts with us. So we have Steve, who will be representing the marketing perspective, and Franz from a more CRM perspective. But maybe, gents, you can do a way better job at introducing yourselves than I can. Steve, you're to my right here on the screen, so maybe you can start.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So my name's Steve Sadler. I have many years experience, more than 20 years experience working in the pharmaceutical industry on company side in both Australia and the UK, and also in above country roles. I guess from my perspective, I'm not an IT consultant or an IT project manager that's come across the pharma that's going to tell you how CRM's you're going to solve all your problems. Neither am I a purely omni-channel marketer with a vested interest in making everything omni-channel. What I am is someone who's very pragmatic and performance focused, and really trying to bring that perspective of how can we turn strategy into execution.
Great, thanks, Steve. And Franz?
Yeah, hi everyone, Franz Eck. Working for Gedeon Richter in Germany since 2019, and I serve as the head of business excellence and internal service. So I have extensive experience with various CRM systems. And yeah, so I can offer real world insights into the challenges and the opportunities associated with the CRM system, and want to bring some, again, real world insights into this discussion today.
Indeed. And so just also so that everyone knows, the webinar is kindly sponsored by MediaSoft. Franz, you're also a customer of MediaSoft, so you'll also bring the perspectives also from what happens behind the curtain there. So based on the research that is done from a MediaSoft perspective, there are a few reasons why CRMs usually fail. So the reasons that they have identified is that, first of all, there's something called complexity overload. So there's a lot of features, and very quickly the rep becomes overwhelmed. So that's then the second reason, is that there's a rep disengagement. So the reps don't use the CRM as intended. Because of that, the data quality becomes low. Because of that, there are management blind spots. And then because of that, there's also huge marketing lost opportunity. Because on slides, it's very easy to do closed loop marketing, because in the CRM, we see what happens with the customer. And then allegedly, Steve, you use that to improve your tactics, your brand plans, your communications. So maybe let's start with that. Question number one for you, Steve. Did you also face that? And did you really get a lot of value from the data that was in the CRM in your past experiences and role?
Yeah, so I guess in preparation for this, I also reached out to some colleagues because I wanted to make sure that my experience had been representative of what other people have had as well, because I was like, I can't be the only person having this issue. And one of the things I've noticed is there's low trust in a lot of the data that's coming back from our CRM systems. Obviously, it's very hard to set up a CRM system. Often they're set up on bad data to start with, and I'm sure we can talk for hours about how to improve the foundation of data, but it's very hard to make decisions from a closed loop marketing perspective when you cannot trust the data. And so we tend to, and I know we're going to get into this, focus a little bit more on activity metrics rather than focused on, making and using those to make decisions, rather than being able to focus on some of the good insights CRM should be able to give us.
Mm-hmm. Franz, so you're actually the one also extracting the data from the CRM. You also use it for very important specific topics, like, for example, a very sensitive topic is the incentive plan. So how do you make sure that the data that you have in the CRM is reliable for your part of the job? And how can you make sure that the data that is available in the CRM should also be reliable for people like Steve?
So first of all, I guess we always have to bear in mind that data is the new currency in our business world. And it serves not only as descriptive, but also a prescriptive purpose. So good data quality is essential for both. And our goal, of course, is that the reps or the employees must be intrinsically motivated to use the system. So the aim is to create a real good added value for the reps so that they are putting the data into the system without the feeling like they have a rock in their backpack. So talking about the complexity you just mentioned, we have to create a system or environment that is supporting the rep in the best way possible and giving him, again, added value so that we can expect the best data for him for creating the reports, the incentive scheme, and the information that is really relevant to the marketing team and to marketing guys like Steve. Because again, data is not only a nice graphic or a chart or a bar or a line. It is really more because you have to look behind the data. And again, it's very, very crucial that the data is nearly complete to get the full picture of the customer. And if anything is missing, I can give the data to Steve and say, okay, Steve, this is the data we have gathered, but again, what is the outcome really of it? So again, to make it short, add value to the rep and expect best data quality for the whole system as as you can call it, the company.
I think that's really important, Franz. It's like, how can we show added value to the rep? And too often, I think we use the CRM system to try to extract data. And, we try to get the reps to become data entry clerks, which they're better off spending their time on managing relationships, not entering data. And I will jump in here and give an example. We just chatted about this before. And this is where I can put my hand up. And probably some of you out there are thinking about, all of these CRM tools, a lot of them have a survey function. And I know when I was first introduced to this, I was like, fantastic. Let's use this because this will give me insights into my HCPs that I wouldn't normally be able to get. And, and I know we often do this around it if you're doing an annual planning, if you're retargeting, resegmenting your market, and you'll do a survey and ask the reps to essentially capture data. I think we need to be really careful about making sure that it's as frictionless as possible. And I put my hand up before to say I've certainly not done that properly and thought, great, if we can do this survey function, why don't I send out a survey of 6 to 8 questions that the reps can do for each HCP to give me all these insights. And some of it may have been valuable and others were like, well, I'm just interested to know, right? That'd be nice to know. It doesn't add much time to their day. Let's just do that. And what you find is then, especially if they've got a CRM system where they have to click through and drop downs and all of this sort of thing, you find that the reps don't do it. And then you say, senior management goes, well, it's a compliance issue. Let's incentivize the reps to complete these surveys. They won't get their bonus unless 80% of the surveys are done, this sort of thing. And what you find is that from a rep perspective, there's nothing in it for them from doing this. First of all, you haven't explained it properly and there's no value add to them and you're getting them to do a lot more. It may not be the most frictionless job they have to do. And then you wonder why you can't rely on the quality of the insights that you get, or there's missing pieces of data. And I think that's a really good example. Not only does the system have to support it, but we as people have to support it as well and make sure that what we're doing, we really think through the consequences. We think, what does it look like a workflow? Is everything that we're doing, is it adding to the customer relationship or is it taking it away?
That makes total sense. Go ahead, Franz.
Yeah, Steve, you just said something very important from my point of view. You just said the rep perspective. We always have to consider that we are talking from different views and perspective. And using the example of the questionnaire, for us in the headquarters, in the office, it's 6 to 8 questions, not much work, right? But for the reps, it's 150 persons multiplied 6 to 8 questions, or 200 persons multiplied with 6 to 8 questions. For us, or I think sometimes we just see the task very isolated. We say, you just have to record a call. You just have to drop off a sample. You just have to do this. You just have to do this. For us, it's only one task at a time. But for the rep, which primary job is to, as you said, engage with the customers, making connections, promote the products, he's overwhelmed with different administrative tasks. So collect this, do this, do this, do this. We are now talking about 10 to 15 different tasks per day in addition to the regular job. And I guess this is something where I think the marketing team or the sales excellence team sometimes is lacking the perspective of the rep that saying this is not his primary job. This is they have to do the job that we can do our job. So we have to be more careful not to overwhelm them with the different tasks they have to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think like the job of the reps getting tougher and tougher and tougher, right? Because we know that access to HCPs is decreasing. Or what's our solution? Let's send them more emails. So everyone's sending them more emails as well. And we're getting the reps to do emails and follow up with emails and organize meetings. And, you know, when I was a rep, all we did was calls and maybe a leave behind. Email didn't exist as an option. You know, maybe we faxed them occasionally, but which is still quite useful in some countries, mind
in Germany, for example, yes.
Yeah, Germany. Yeah, we love this technology.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. The access is decreasing, so every point of engagement we have becomes more and more valuable.
But if I may there, and I also want to thank the people that are watching us live. One of the big advantages of watching us live is actually the ability to ask questions or make comments. So we are monitoring the chat. Don't hesitate to ask questions. If you don't agree with something we're saying, also don't hesitate to say it so we can try and answer you through the questions that you're asking. But then, Steve, Franz, we spoke a lot about things that don't work. Franz, you really sit at the forefront of CRM. Can you give examples of things that do work? Because in the end, CRM is very important for example, as we said, incentive plan. We also have things like the MCCP. What actually works from your point of view?
So I guess most of the things work in general without saying that they are, how to say, I guess it's harder to say or to describe the things which are not working than talking about the things that work, because basically the system are set up that they are good, that they are fine. Again,
Frank, can I ask you a question?
Sure, do it.
How does your work in the CRM system, how does it help reps plan their day or prepare? And by the way, everyone, we have not rehearsed this. We haven't gone through, you know, talking points before together or anything. This is sort of completely unrehearsed. So I'm putting him on the spot here.
Yeah. So it's helping the reps to create, for example, a useful route for their day. So they plan their visit in advance, load it into Google Maps and see, okay, when I plan my visits at 8:30, at 10, at 12, at 1 o'clock, show me the route. Okay, it's going to take me 5 hours. Now if there's a kind of traffic jam, now we have a delay here.
And that's part of the CRM, or is it something separate?
That's part of the CRM. That's a kind of add-in.
I'm learning something today as well.
The route planning, and now we are coming to the fantastic topic of AI, where you can see, okay, make some. We just talked about buzzwording, next best actions. Okay, please give me the physician close to this area where I'm right now. Are there any physicians that I haven't visited for weeks now, and there should be the next visit? So basically there are so many small things that can make the life of the rep easier if, and it's a very, very big if he uses this.
Yeah.
We just can offer him everything. If he's not accepting this, we can
So
give
if
him the test
he or she,
concept.
what would be your opinion? What makes he or she accept this?
Seeing a true benefit for the daily work.
Okay. Sorry,
But
Yasin, I know you're the facilitator. I've
no,
jumped
no,
in.
it's fine. It's really about having an open discussion as a group and bringing value to the audience. So I'm perfectly happy with how it's going. No, no worries, Steve. But I did want to pick up on that, and we also have a question from Ivana. I'll just show it on screen. So it's if you had to name one change that would most improve CRM adoption, what would it be? We just spoke about rep centricity, but there I wanted to ask because what I do see is that there's very quickly a very big discussion of adding features. A lot of CRMs now have a ton of features, but I sometimes wonder, do they ever speak to a rep? There's, for example, one very big summit once a year. I'm not discrediting that specific company, but there is not one single rep there for that CRM solution. So, Franz, how do you actually collect the needs of your reps so that
Yeah,
the CRM is of an added value for them? Because maybe that's also something we're sometimes missing.
very, very easy answer. We just ask them. We really ask them, what do you need? We are working in pilot groups and in project groups where we pick the reps and ask them, okay, what do you think if we would do, or if we would create this module, or what do you need to increase your how to say to increase your efficiency in your daily work. So we talk to them, and it's very, very important from my point of view to include them into your ideas and developments, because we just talked about the acceptance. If we have this information from the reps, we can say this is from you for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the simple answer.
And
Talk to
maybe
them.
a bit more complex answer. How do you How do you select those reps? Because my experience is with any project that we did, and I was also guilty of this. For example, as a global omnichannel leader, I would pick the countries that are the easiest to work with. So usually Spain is an awesome country to work
Yeah.
with. Do you do the same with the reps, or should you take really your most reluctant rep and also ask them? So how do you collect those needs as well from your reps?
So it depends. Basically, my approach is to have just a random collection. For example, I need 5 reps, and I go through my Excel file and say this or this. For really specific projects, when we know this is something which is highly complex, we are asking our area managers, do we have any suggestions for the reps? And these are basically our two main approaches: the random selection and the suggestion by the area managers.
Clear. And then, Steve, from your experience, the CRM data you got, was it then regional or on a country level? How did you actually check that, or even your engagement data? Can you tell us a bit
Yeah,
more about that?
so I guess so it varies. So obviously, when you're working in a country, you're looking at country level data. There is a focus. It tends to be a focus on activity metrics and what you see. And by that, I also mean, click-throughs and this with emails. So how many emails were sent, how many click-throughs. I think where we want to get is really understanding what content works and what doesn't. But I don't know anyone who's been able to implement that properly. I know when I was working in a affiliate, and we had this e-detail, and it was really fantastic, and the reps could press these little buttons on each page to kind of indicate whether it was positive, neutral, or negative. And no one ever does that for each page, right? And I think one of the things is I think that sometimes we introduce too many features or make things too complicated that they just can't be used. So if they're not used, then you're not going to gain the insight from them. I believe there's an opportunity around AI, to make that easier, make that better. But I mean, I'd want to see the evidence for that, because, if you speak to anyone in pharma, apparently AI is going to solve every problem we've ever got. But we all know from, I didn't go to Next, but I saw the posts, the same 80% of AI projects never make it to business as usual. So, I mean, there's a lot of promise, but I wonder how the delivery is. And I think Ivana said, if you had to name one change that would most improve CRM adoption, I think it's understanding that it's a change management approach that you have to do. And I think Franz said it, in any change management, you have to introduce change at the right pace where you actually show value to the people who are involved in it. If they don't see value and you introduce a lot of change, such as introducing a whole new way of working, different features, different processes, then it's not going to be adopted. And it doesn't matter if you've got the best technology ever or the best reps ever or the best product ever. If people are not adopting the CRM system, which is really meant to be how you link strategy to execution, then there's no point in doing it. And I think making sure you're clear about what that roadmap looks like in terms of change management. And I think sometimes people sitting in IT departments or CRM departments that have never gone out and worked in the role of working as a rep or MSL and knowing what day-to-day is like, or being a sort of standard marketer, don't really understand the complexity and the needs. And we had a chat about this before. I think everyone's job is getting more complex. Reps' job's getting more complex now. Marketing is getting more complex. As a marketer, you're required to produce so much extra content now that you want things that to be frictionless and save you time and not add to your workload.
Absolutely. But then if we speak about adding to the workload, because you make some very compelling points there, Steve, it's actually, Franz, I believe that you had the same CRM system now for a while, but every now and then you must introduce new features. So how do you ensure then that new features are implemented smoothly? And how do you request changes, and how do you train your people, again, to stay a bit more on the real world side as well?
So first, allow me to get a step back because this fits very good when we are talking about complexity and again, the real life. It is very important that you have a provider of the system that is not only able to develop very nice and very high qualitative modules, for example. It is very important that they understand your business needs. So for us, it's important to have a partner on our side that understands how we are working and how a rep is working, so that they, for example, they have the iPad in front of them and they for themselves, they are checking, okay, the new development requires 20 clicks. That's too much. So the development should be in a way that is only 10 clicks, better 5 clicks. And talking about, or getting back to your question, having this in mind that we need someone in the development department understanding the business need, we are requesting our needs via simple email. Then we make a few bullet points. Okay, we need this, 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 and this. And what is very important for us is to describe why we need it, to give the developer or the key account manager a better understanding about the relevance of this. And we simply, again, we are asking a lot of questions. What do you think? Do you have suggestions? Is there something similar for another customer we maybe could use or could easily adapt? And then we have a brainstorming about this whole new development. And once the new version is ready, we have 2 options here again. The first one is we simply inform our team via intranet, okay, there is a new functionality, please find here the instructions. So we are doing instruction via PDF, so they just click, okay, I click here, I click here, I click here, and done. Or for bigger developments, we really take the time to do Teams meeting and say, okay, please block 30 minutes. We want to show you something new. For example, we want to show you our new and improved module for adding content. It's not that easy to understand. Of course, it's only 5 clicks, but understand the background of it. And so then we train the reps with new developments. And if we have a totally new rep joining our company, we are having really a 6-hour training, so 2 times 3 hours, where we go through the whole system. And I'm always telling them, no training, no explanation, no demonstration is as useful as use the system.
Yeah.
Try it out. You can't destroy something. Click and play around, and imagine you're a small kid and I'm giving you a smartphone for the first time with a crazy app, a lot of gamification. Just type around and see what is happening. You can't destroy anything. Just play around and learn while doing it. And again, talking about complexity, we figured out that as more as we talk with the reps, the more we can reduce the complexity, because we get some really valid insights from them. I say, okay, go to our partner. Okay, please, can you change this model a little bit because it's too much, too complicated, or too many clicks.
And that's actually a very, very interesting point of you, Franz, especially the training part and having someone go around for 6 hours, because usually the onboarding is very, very quick. But then question for you, Steve, from a marketing point of view, have you ever written user stories for changes for the CRM? I know that's a bit of a technical way of saying it. So if you don't understand, it's part of the question. And how were you trained to understand the CRM data, if you ever were?
So I think that's a good question. I think there's a lack of training. So for me particularly, I haven't written user stories. Obviously, when you work in big corporations, you have whole teams of people. And sometimes it's not so user friendly using the CRM. So you may not interact with the CRM directly, but you may interact with a team somewhere based around the world that are the data people that will then extract the data from the CRM and put that into dashboards. And you'll say what you want to see in those dashboards. But I mean, I think where we are in marketing now, just generally, is we want to know what content works in front of what particular segment of doctors, because we make assumptions about what content works. And I don't think we're necessarily getting that sort of feedback back from the systems that we're using. We do, as I said, we do focus more on emails sent, emails clicked open, what subject line works better, all of it, sending an echo to HCPs that didn't respond to a mass email, all of this sort of thing. But I think taking it to that next level, we're not really there. So, I know there's individual user cases. I don't know, maybe Franz, maybe you can tell me what your experience is like.
I have a question based on this. So if I understood you correct, you said you're in basically at the end of the whole process where you get the data and see the dashboards. Do you think it would help you to work with the system and understand how the data is gathered and how the process behind it is, so that you can see this data comes from the very first point, which is entered by the rep in this way in this workaround?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important. And I'm not saying that I haven't been involved in that, because certainly using, for example, surveys, I think definitely I've been involved in developing questionnaires around those, and trying to understand the impact of, if I ask this question, how much time is that going to take, and is that easy, and what value does it give me? So definitely looking at things like that. I think that from a marketer, because there's so many things happening now, you want a system that's also intuitive, right? And we keep on saying you want to be able to ask it a question and not have to go to a data team to get you that answer. So what content is performing the best? And then if you can't rely on that data, we talked a lot about data quality and decisions. And if you can't rely on that data to make a decision, then that defeats the whole purpose. And I think we're kind of in that sort of catch-22 as well.
That makes sense. And there, I do have a question, maybe again a bit more technical for you, Franz. There's something called the MCCP, multi-channel cycle plan, which actually is part of the incentive plan of a rep. To, for example, if they send emails, it's a contributor to their bonus. So how can we make sure that what we ask the rep to do then creates value rather than them just doing it because of the incentive? I know it's a difficult question because I've seen a very big corporation, for example, at some point they had a HEP portal launch. They gave big incentives for HEPs to register. So the registrations went through the roof. But then, of course, no one logged in afterwards. And the portal basically died because there was no push behind it. So how do you handle that, for example, at Gideon Richter? The balance of MCCP and reality.
Yeah, that's absolutely a valid and good question. However, very hard to answer. I would say again the sentence we have to say here is adding value. The reps have to understand that what they are actually doing has an impact on their own sales. You somehow have to show them, and this is hard because you can't check an action very isolated. You have to explain them everything you do is contributing to your sales, is so increasing your bonus. And here again, it's not only about the rep, it's about the whole company. It's about culture. We need the marketing perspective. We need great content so that the reps see there is value in the things I'm just doing. There is value in this email I'm sending out. There is value into behind the credentials I'm sending out for the doctor's portal. And I have to show them it's not that hard. You can do it with 2 clicks. So again, we are always talking about, we have to see ourselves in a closed environment. Everyone is depending on another, and we are working with each other, and we can't just look isolated on a rep, or we can't just look on an isolated rep action. We always have to see the bigger picture and see and try to understand what is really bringing additional value to our actions and to our sales.
Makes all sense. And Steve, when you were then in the role where you really had to create that content and ask the reps to send it, how did you make sure that then that value was there and that you would measure that value through your CRM processes? If you were, the question can also be you weren't.
Yeah, I think that probably not enough of that closed loop happens. And I don't think that's just isolated to my experience. Obviously, you're looking for content. You're still looking at what content is, I guess. I think that a lot of the time we default to the reps telling us what they think works and what doesn't. Certainly, we look at click-throughs, we look at, what parts of the website were being looked at, any parts of the e-detail. But I can tell you in my last role from an above country perspective, when we tried to look at, and I know this is a little bit different from working directly in the market, when we tried to look at what content was used from an e-detail perspective, like around the world, throughout Europe, it was really difficult to see because every country was calling it and tagging it something different. They were creating their own pages, sort of slightly related to the global e-detail, but not quite the same. And so it was quite difficult. We ended up sort of manually going through and trying to understand each e-detail, but that didn't give us the information we needed in terms of what part of the e-detail was most effective. So, as I said, it's the way you set up things. So that closed loop marketing, often, the fallback option is, you get a rep panel. And I'm not saying this is not a good thing to do, but it'd be good to combine it with actual data as well, that you're asking them, well, what works and what doesn't. And even though you've got all these systems and processes to supposedly measure how effective your campaigns are. Also, it's difficult because, I mean, you might focus on particular emails, but they might be relevant sent at a particular time. So an email sent straight after a congress is going to be different to an email where you're, just reiterating the 3 key messages of the brand. And I'd argue that that second email is low value as well. I know we talked about it a little bit, and I know this is meant to be about CRM systems and not about omni-channel in general, but I think that everyone is super busy. We talked about whether it exists or not, this concept of hyper personalization, or and that seems the solution is modular content. AI is going to help us write this content, and we're going to get everything approved with AI help as well. And we're going to have all of this content that's sort of more personalized. What I've seen to date is when you increase the volume of content, the quality goes down a lot. And if you think about customer engagement, they don't want an email that's very glossy in your brand colors, with your 3 key messages. They want something that's going to be of value to them. And so I think we need to think about that when we talk about CRM systems as well. It's not just how many emails we send or which were clicked through because we had a clickbait style heading or subject line. It's what was actually of value to HCPs.
I guess value is the word of the day, right? We're talking so much about value and added value, and this is so important for the system itself. It's so important for the reps perspective, from the marketing perspective, from the sales perspective.
Absolutely. But I do want to just make one point, which is that CRM very often is also seen as more than it really should be, because in the end, the CRM, this is something we covered in the previous webinar that we've done. If you really take it to the essence of what it is, it's the customer relationship management tool, which should help you to see where the relationship with your customer is. Then, for example, in pharma, you can take this down to where is the rep, the HCP in the adoption ladder, because that's the visibility it should allow us to give. And based on that, we can provide value. This was a great point made in the previous CRM. But then here, just based on what we're discussing, for example, being able to see the key messages, we blame the CRM, but actually it's also because the tagging and taxonomy process is not there. Right now, something that I'm working on with one of my clients is, for example, consent. Consent collection is very simple. In theory, you just ask someone to sign, but there's a whole lot of processes behind it. And Franz, I think you were touching upon it earlier. You have the DPO that needs to be involved. Your privacy policy needs to be up to date. You need to train your reps. The HCPs need to understand. You need to have a very good and robust unsubscribe. You need APIs between your CRM and whatever solution that you're using to send. Ideally, you send the emails directly through the CRM. So the CRM is extremely important. It's at the center of many other technologies. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Yes, the CRM is important. Yes, it has to be implemented correctly. Yes, it has to be maintained correctly. But there's a whole lot of other processes that also need to run. And very often people just say, yeah, but it's the fault of the CRM. Is that also something that you have experienced or not, Franz, especially you, as you manage the CRM maybe day to day?
Yeah.
That you're the scapegoat sometimes.
So absolutely. So the topic of CRM as the core and other systems like satellites around is something we are facing basically day to day. And for ourselves, we have the philosophy that our CRM system is the single source of truth. So it's really the foundation of our customer. When we are facing a customer centricity approach, we need to have one system where we can see this is the baseline. Here is the most current data from the personal data, like the address status, like the consent, and so on. And all the other systems built around the CRM are collecting the data primarily from the CRM system, and they're just giving additional insights into the CRM system. Because I think the main goal is to have a 360-degree on your customer, and you need one single place where this is set up. And for us, it's the CRM system, it's Sales Vision, where we have committed ourselves as single source of truth. And I guess this is a very good wording for this approach, single source of truth.
And I'm not familiar with Sales Vision. Is that something specific from MediaSoft or from your CRM?
That's a CRM system provided by MediaSoft, which we're working for roughly 10, 11 years now.
Okay.
And Franz, you obviously have MSLs as well, right? And they use the same system. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
that's
so
right. Only another surface, because
of
by
compliance.
law it's not compliance and general law things. It's not allowed to mix sales and medical topics. So we have to build up different roles that the MSS are allowed to see the reps entries, but the reps from the sales point of view are not allowed to see all the medical stuff. But it's for us in headquarter one system where all the information is gathered.
Great. And this is something you built custom, Franz, for based on your needs, or is that something that out of the box was already there?
That was there out of the box. Yeah, that was out of the box. Just small improvements like separation of lines and the adding purpose of products. But basically it was all there. I guess there's a standard thing in the pharmaceutical company, MSL and sales-driven topics that you're not allowed to mix them. So it's just not providing them.
I think it varies slightly by country, but pretty much needs to be the firewalls in place.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go, Yasin.
No, I just have a question for you, because in the end, for example, another buzzword, if you allow me to phrase it that way, has fallen, which is HCP 360, which is something that I don't entirely believe in, because yes, having a full customer view is possible, but really knowing everything about an HCP, I think is impossible, because they also go on third-party platforms, capturing what they do on the website, etc., is very difficult, even if you have the best possible CRM implementation in the world. That said aside, so let's assume then that we have a HCP 360. Steve, in the brand plan, how do you actually use the CRM data, and did you use it? Because that's also something that is absolutely crucial, to use that data at the right moment. And one of those right moments then is the brand planning.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I've been working in above country role the last few years. So we haven't actually been, I know for sure we haven't been taking insights from the CRM, except some basic activity data, or looking at, I guess, the segmentation that's come through from the different countries. So I was reaching out to some of my former colleagues and people that work for other companies. And what's interesting is a lot of the time they're going into brand planning and they're not really taking any insights they're taking anecdotal stories, but not hard data into their brand planning process. Or not as much as you would think. And an example was from one country. They got the reps to collect objections, as many people do, and they were wanting to analyze that to work out what they're going to be doing the next year. And they basically just abandoned it and just spoke to a few reps and HCPs instead, because they weren't confident that everyone had focused on actually entering this data. And this is what you said, Franz, and I think you said it, Yasin, that sometimes the simplest thing takes so much organizational effort, right? So just to do this consent to receive email or whatever, so much organizational effort, is that you have to really pick and choose what you're going to do. And so I think that the opportunity is there. I think that sometimes we try to make things too complex before we just get the basics right.
Absolutely. And one of the solutions, because we're also here to speak about solutions, I'm not saying it's a silver bullet, but something that has worked very well in the past, from my experience, is that we had our roadmap from an engagement point of view, and we knew what we wanted to achieve from a customer point of view, so the HCP point of view, and we put that together with the IT roadmap, so also the CRM features, which very often are very disconnected from one another. And in general, in pharma, and I hear this at every congress, and I go to a lot of them, is that we work in silos, and then omnichannel wants to go this way, marketing wants to go that way, CRM is trying to keep up, and somehow then they also are depending on what actually the CRM vendor is selling. So because of that, we're not all on one page. And maybe that's already something that is very, very, very crucial. And there, maybe, Franz, I have a question for you. How do you make sure that you have that internal alignment on the roadmap that you have for the CRM, and that this actually meets the customer needs, and customer is then also your internal customer, so reps, marketing, and everyone else?
So basically, I can ask a question back. What is the alternative? We, as a company, we simply do not have an alternative to the fact that we have to commit in one system as the main source of knowledge. And I agree with you, 360 degrees is very hard to achieve. But again, I would be happy with 300 degrees view on the customer. And here again, we just have to make sure that everyone in the company has the understanding that the customer is the most important thing for us in our work environment. So the marketeers have to understand that their brand planning is nothing without the customer view.
Indeed.
And the customer view is saved in the CRM system. And the sales need the information from the marketing team. And again, the CRM is the crossline, because once the marketing team does not know what is really happening with the customers, the reps will not get the correct answers or the correct materials, so to say. And again, there is no alternative, but that sounds very negative. You just have to make sure that you have advanced CRM systems and you don't have to ask that question in your company, because it's totally clear, it's crystal clear for everyone that the system is the baseline for all the planning process, for the whole reporting process, and for the, I said it again before, predictive and prescriptive analysis.
No, that's a very valid point, which actually makes me think of something very weird, which is that very often we trust external data more than our own data. So, for example, for the brand planning, my experience is that then we're okay to spend a lot of money on an Ipsos report for data that should be in our CRM, and instead of seeing how we can use that money actually to fix our first-party data. I see you saying yes, Steve. Is that something you have also experienced in the past?
Yeah, you see it all the time. Or if it's not an Ipsos report, you then go and do a study. You know, spend 200 to 600,000 pounds on a study to give you some further insights. That's very normal.
Indeed. And I'm sure Franz would be very happy with 200 to 600K additional budget. I don't know what you know with it. But...
Yeah, it's strange, right? I guess it's how to say, it's a trust thing that we think external data is better because we don't trust the thing we are creating on our own, because it can't be that good because it's there. So we need something new. And once you just said it, it makes me wonder why. I don't have an explanation.
And then you'll find
for this.
that Ipsos report is just based on a panel of HCPs or something.
Exactly,
not to sort of denigrate Ipsos, but like this external report you get based on a panel rather than your full, you've got in your CRM system, your full amount of customers.
Exactly. So instead of relying on data for 10,000 persons, you're relying on a market survey executed with 100 persons and say, okay, this is not representative.
If that. Yeah, if that.
Yeah, exactly. But
French,
so
right?
I'm not going to say I was successful at this, but in a previous role of mine, we were actually asking the insights teams to go into the CRM and look at the data. But then, of course, what happens every 2 years in pharma, there was a restructure. So it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But I would say to everyone participating to really also ask your insights team if they can work together with SFE leads, so Salesforce effectiveness, or other CRM people, to actually look at the data that is in the CRM. And one of the reasons why the Ipsos reports, I don't know if they're trusted more, but they're structured in such a way that management understands them. And so it's how can the insights team also interpret the data that is in the CRM and present it to our C-levels, who are then going to make those kind of decisions as well. So maybe that's also one key takeaway. And I'm sure, Franz, but maybe you can confirm this, that with your current CRM system, you should be able to also look at that data and extract it, I assume.
Sure. So if we're talking about the foundation of reporting is basically the data saved in the system. And again, we have two options. The first thing is you are creating the dashboards with real-time data within the system, or you're using other systems like ClickSense or Power BI. You need a report server or really simple extraction tool within the system. And this is something I've worked with quite a few systems now. And again, there are significant differences in such an easy task as like creating an Excel file with for example, visits. From my point of view, again, it has to be user-friendly. So for the reps and for yourself, it's 2 or 3 clicks with a few filters. But I've saw systems, I can tell you, you have to go deep in the backbone of the system, in the back end, to understand, okay, where are the settings now? But again, as the CRM system or the data inside the system is the foundation for the whole company reporting, you need to make sure that it's well structured and easy to export.
Great. Okay. Then just because we're coming to the close of the meeting, I just want to reiterate that anyone that is in the call can ask questions. We would be happy to answer them. Then maybe as a final question, because this is also about providing really the solutions, we can start with you, Steve. Is which of the CRM functions in the past have you used the most? I know you didn't work directly into the CRM, or what aspect of the CRM was most useful to you?
Yeah, I think it's so we focus very much on activity metrics. I think that what I would like to see is that those metrics, if I'm talking about the future, right, not just the past. So in the past, we focused very much on activity metrics or what content got the most click-throughs or whatever. I think that what I would like to see in the future is something that helps us better make decisions by linking different pieces of data. So it's more insight generating rather than just telling us what we may have done in the past in isolated ways. Does that make sense? And that's why I think the future, everyone's talking about AI. There may be some options with AI and insight generation around linking these silos that you see across the CRM systems.
No, that makes total sense, Steve. Of course, the word AI has fallen, so I do believe that AI can have a role to play there. But again, I'll speak partly from experience and partly from what I saw at congresses and partly from what I know the industry is capable of. And it is that it's also, if you start with the end goal in mind, which very often we don't. For example, you break down your next campaign, which is instead of I want to deliver a key message, you say, I have an adoption ladder and 60% of my HAPs are stuck in consideration. I want to get them to first
How do I migrate them? Yeah,
exactly.
And what have I learned from past campaigns where I've migrated customers? What was the type of data? What channel was it delivered in? Who was the segment? All of these sorts of things. And I think at the moment we don't integrate all of that information.
Exactly, but it is possible, and it should be possible. And then, of course, with the help of AI, we could see if there's patterns that are emerging. So then, Franz, same question for you. What's your top function from the CRM that you're using today that you would really recommend others to really look at and really use more to get the most added value possible?
So my favorite thing, I guess this is really specific for us in Germany, is the sample module, because we have very strict laws by dropping samples, and with our current sample module, it's very easy to drop a sample with a physician, get a signature, and save batch and expiration date and so on. However, as I know, there are viewers from other countries. I would say my favorite module is not finally there yet, but we are working on it. So it is like like a module that is somehow related to AI, but we want to break down the whole targeting and segmentation process, because understanding the unique customer is extreme important, but we talked about 360 degree is nearly impossible.
Yes.
And it's too much work to how to say, engage with each customer directly, but you can build clusters. But you have to understand which cluster your physician or your customer belongs to. So I'm thinking about a module with MediaSoft that connects AI with our rep insights to have a better view on the whole targeting and segmentation process. Again, we do not have to spend 100,000 euros for external companies providing a model for targeting. The data is in-house. We just need a way to calculate a classification and a segmentation. And again, this is something I'm thinking about for some time now. I'm in contact with our key account manager at MediaSoft here, and I'm hoping we have a breakthrough soon that we have the whole targeting and segmentation process.
That's
very
definitely
easily.
something that would be very useful from a marketing side of view,
Yeah.
point of view. I can see that. And if I hark back to my days when I was a rep, maybe 25 years ago, I think it was, or something, that Google Maps integration with helping you plan, that would have been heaven sent for me. I found the hardest part of the role was not actually doing the role, but was like driving and finding parking, actually. So anything that would help with route planning, anything that would help save my day as a rep, save time or make my day easier would have been such a fantastic thing to have. I think we undervalue these sorts of things.
Indeed. And then if there's an additional functionality to see where the rep can pick up lunch, I'm sure then that the reps would be even more. But
Absolutely.
Great. So thank you very much, Steve, Franz. I think we can summarize this whole webinar really as a keyword value. So we try to really focus on what brings value. We discussed the problems, but one of the things with webinars is very often they discuss only the problems. So we did try to discuss a lot of the solutions. So thank you as well, Steve and Franz, to be so transparent. Really, really appreciated. One caveat that I want to say is that we're very male dominant. We did try to also get a female speaker, but unfortunately, we didn't get any female speaker this time that had accepted. Same for last time. So if there's a female speaker who would like to join a future webinar, don't hesitate to reach out. And as you can see then on the bottom right, you can download the migration playbook if that would be of interest. But thank you, Steve. Thank you, Franz. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And we wish you a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks
for
everyone.
having me.
Everyone.